What's up, guys? This is another episode of Healing Through Transparency. This series is called Broken Men. Andre, thank you for tuning in. Man, this episode is going to be special. The reason why it's special is because it's something that I battled for a very long time: suicide and verbal abuse. I can't wait to dig into the conversation and just see how God moves. You know, so we do have questions here, in a sense of a scripted way, but truly God is going to flow throughout this whole thing. So shout outs to you for tuning in, first and foremost. And this is the fourth episode, so we're excited for that. And I think next week is going to be the last episode, and it's going to be wrapped up. So this has been a crazy process, a crazy experience so far. And I've just been getting tons of messages of how this has been helping people. I just can't wait to see how the replays help people. But yeah, I have some brothers here tonight who's gonna help me out in this conversation, and they're gonna tell their stories. So that much you don't really just get so much of Andre, because it's not really about me. It's really about other men, and just other people. So without further ado, I'm gonna introduce my brothers, Craig Cooper and Montel Riggs. So quick disclaimer: Montel is a little busy right now, the last 30 minutes of his shift, but he will be present and he'll be tapping in. But yeah, just
Yeah,
wanted to make sure that just want to make sure that they're clear about that, so it's not like, hey, why is this guy not saying nothing? He's staring at the screen. So, yeah, go ahead, brothers. You can introduce yourself, starting off with Montel, since you're like, yeah.
what's going on? I'm Montel with two L's. Homie of Dre. More so was drawn to him just by like his story. And so glad that he's here just doing what he's doing tonight. And just alive to tell people about that. And I find myself, I was telling him a few times, just always talking about his story to friends and people. And they're like, oh wow, this is so cool. And I'm like, just not just word of mouth at like a family gathering or party. I'm like, why not Zoom and spread what he's doing? Because she's doing so much, man. So yeah, less about me and just I'm just so glad what you're doing, man.
Man, praise God, man. Thank you. Appreciate that, bro. Go ahead, Craig.
Everybody, my name is Craig Cooper. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm looking forward to this conversation about just bringing stories together and just helping each other out. So this is something definitely looking forward to.
Awesome, man. So you just shameless plug. You want to drop your brand real quick? Just let people know what you got going on while we're
Oh,
here.
thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
of
the
course.
founder of Uplift Kings, also the Walking Purpose podcast about mental health and about growth every Sunday.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, I'll make sure I drop those things in the description. And yeah, so let's start with the conversation, guys. So first question: why do you think men are broken and not showing up to their roles with emotional availability?
Can I start?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like from my personal experiences, from going through stuff I went through in my childhood, as far as a verbal abuse with teachers I dealt with in my past and relationships. So a lot of times when you get fed negative comments, negative statements over and over again, you start to believe those. So when you do step into relationships that are new or new friendships, you kind of become afraid to express your emotions. You become afraid to just show your feelings. And back then, what we're doing right now wasn't out there. We was growing up. Back then, it was more like a man had to be strong, not like mentally, but physically. And you were not taught to show your emotions. You're not taught to say it's okay if you cry. So having those emotions balled up for years and years is the reason why that happens.
Yeah, I agree too. I think it's just like you hear so many like negative things about yourself and it's attached to you. You may be in all these different circles, but home is where you're homegrown. That's where you're grown, that's where you're cultivated. So you go out into the world and you may be good at something or be a people person. You hear all this good stuff about yourself, and it's hard to believe that because you're like, nah, this is what the people who I spend the most time with, who may be blood or something, feel about me. So you start to get this negative thinking about yourself, but you're like, I gotta suck it at home and show that this isn't getting to me as much. And I go out into the world and like flex or whatever the case is, but you can't show any sign of weakness, or it's kind of like you suck.
Yeah, man, that's really relatable. Like what you said, Craig, about physically and mentally. Like, men are really seen as physically strong, but mentally not. And I think it's like, again, I think it's still the same thing to this day. Like, we have a lot of strong men, but mentally they're not, and that's why I think men are showing up broken, because like right now life requires a mental game. Like, we're living in a whole different, atmosphere, a whole different system. More entrepreneurs now than anything. So, and that's a whole mental game in itself. So, yeah, man, that's powerful. And I also can relate to what you said about school. Um, I didn't even think about this until you said it, man. But I had a teacher. She was like verbal abusive too, and she was physically abusive. I'm not gonna put her on blast, but she would like discipline us, and like, so at least my experience. I can't talk about the other kids, but these kids were bad. So I mean, but for me, I was just trying to be bad, and I paid the price. She got grabbed me, and I was fat, so I don't know how she did this, but she had grabbed me, and she like choked me up to like the wall, and she was like, "You're not gonna be disobedient, X Y Z." I can't remember everything, man, but I just remember that moment she did that, and like my feet was above the ground. I was like, "This is crazy," but so yeah, so like I had dealt with, and this was a woman, so definitely at an early age, suppress that, because that was kind of like a norm. I come from a Haitian background, and beatings were like a normal thing. It's like part of the culture. It's like if your kid acts up, beat him, So yeah, that's definitely something I can relate to. Um, Next question we got is, what was the root cause of you being a broken man?
That's a deep question. I have two, and I have two incidents where I can speak on that. My first one started when I was in fourth grade, right? And the standard class is normally what 25, 30 kids maybe. And I got pulled out of class, and I got put into a class that was labeled special ed class, right? So it was 5 or 6 kids in there. And one day in particular, I'm going back to the classroom. I'm super late. The teacher's right on the back, right on the blackboard. Mom was under her breath saying, "Oh, the retarded kids are coming." So me, at a young man, hearing that, I'm like, "Damn, is this true?" So I got kids walking past my classroom, like, "Look at him, he in a slow class. Look at him." And I remember this girl I had a crush on back then. I was like, "Oh, she don't see me," and I'm like trying to cover my head. Oh, dang, Craig in the retarded class. I feel like those were like the beginning steps of me not feeling good about myself, feeling less than every single time, not feeling good enough to sit in the room with other people. And I remember, to fast forward it to go to a point where when I was an adult, this is like 2008, right? And this is like back in the day when they had like the AOL Messenger, the video chat. And this is when I was going through my hardest battle with depression. I didn't know what it was. And I was trying to explain to her, like, "Hey, I'm going through this. I keep waking up and wanting to cry all the time. It's taking me 5 times. I'm thinking I'm going to get that support, I'm going to get that. I'm here for you." So instead of getting that, I got to laugh. Not a, like a laugh, like a historical point laugh that you laugh like you ain't, because you're soft. So I feel like that made me close up. So now you got all these negative experiences going through as a child, young adult, teenager, and all this. So now, like, those are the stages that I feel like were what started me on my road to depression, unfortunately.
Wow, man. Um, yeah, wow, it's tough, bro. I could definitely understand. I feel like I've dealt with similar situations. I think it's just the typical ones, at least, from what most people might experience. Is kind of like when you like a girl, and then she just starts laughing at you if you tell her you like her or something like that. Um, but yeah, nothing to that deep of extent. But man, wow, I could definitely see how that affected you, growing up, and trying to find your identity as well. You have any experiences, Mato?
I don't know. I don't say a pinpoint moment that led to being broken as a man, but if I could identify it, I think it was just not really having direction from like my pops. Like, he was around, but he wasn't present,
Mm,
like ever. For a lot of different reasons, I won't blast the man, but he just wasn't like a hands-on father, like, at all, by any means. And then he was very like tear down. It's like he used to tell us stuff like, "Oh, you're so stupid. Like, you should go to school on Saturdays and Sunday. Like, you should never have a weekend." Just stuff like that. Just kind of like lashing out. So I think, kind of to circle back around, it's just not having like a male that I look up to or that I even want to look up to. On top of, I was a bad kid. But I think when you're dealing with kids in general, you should know this one's a little more hyper. This one needs a little more attention. So I need to deal with them according to how they are, and I just put the blame on, oh, this kid because I'm the leader. So just kind of push in that direction. So I think that just being not wholesome and always just have this chip on my shoulder, like, oh, you don't like me, or you say it's about me, like I'll just go tit for tat with whoever all the time, and just I didn't care about any type of authority like at all because of that.
Okay. Yeah, man, I definitely understand that. Okay. Um, and so we have another question, right? This one's actually, I think this could be a good bridge because it's like when we suppress these emotions that we're talking about, it can lead to negative thoughts, and the negative thoughts lead to just not wanting to deal with them. And so the next question is, what triggered your experience with suicide?
Um, I'll jump in. My experience, um, just being, like I said, pretty like out there. Um, my best friend, his mom was killed when we were kids. I grew up in San Pedro. His father, he was raised by his grandmother. His father passed away in 8th grade due to alcoholism. And then my best friend, my road dog, we were 3 days apart. He passed away in 11th grade, just doing the stuff we were doing. So I already had this chip on my shoulder. We very much didn't really respect authority or nothing. And I just remember all these Christians coming to me and saying, everything that happens is like part of God's plan. It's part of God's plan. So the more I heard it, it sounded cute. But I was like, you know what? This God is like evil. Like one person might be an accident, but this is a whole family. So I went off the deep end, started really getting into like hard drugs. But I remember when he passed away, it was, they say like suicide, people can mask it well. I had no intention of like trying to harm myself or anything, but it was just so much like anger and everything just around on top of, getting into harder drugs and stuff. I was like, man, I'll do anything to myself at any moment. I just won't care. Like life don't mean nothing. God don't mean nothing. Like, you know, just do whatever you do. And like, whenever you pass, it's only going to happen once. Like, screw it. And it just is what it is. So I remember, again, not eating for days. And I remember trying to like gouge out like my eyes and like tearing out my face at the spur of the moment. And just wanted to like starve myself, and a ton of like other PTSD came on through, losing other friends, continue hard drugs, like betrayal, stupid stuff that I did, and just in and out of like jail all the time. So all this like toxic stuff, but also at the end of the day, it's just feeling like I have no one to go to anyway. And whatever bad thing happens to me is going to just happen once, and then I'm going to be done with it, whether it's death or whatever happens. Like, I would mentally prepare myself to meet, whatever fate that was, just doing what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. Wow, man. So how did you before you answer that, Craig? My bad, man. I have this question. How did you overcome uh, those thoughts about God?
So overcoming it is, man, I have people like legit, Christian people who were in my life, like constantly chasing me through like every lockup, through every whatever, like shooting that took place, just, stupid stuff that I don't want to like, brag on or glorify, none of that, but,
Yeah.
Just people who like stood by me. And I was like, man, God has to be real because of like these people around me. And I see they all have similar backgrounds. I thought they were just like these judgmental people who just opened a book and God said, let there be light. And they just like believed it and went around forcing out on everybody else and telling everybody else they're going to hell. And like their life sucked,
Yeah.
And then also, second part of that question was like, having that encounter with God and hearing voices completely sober when I was on drugs, and just 3 times a voice telling me like, you're not the last one. I didn't leave you alone, but you're the last one out for a reason. And I set you
Wow.
aside and I plan for your life. So I heard it once in my apartment, once in a jail cell, and then once somebody told me it out loud. So none of these people could ever
Right.
be in the same, space to have put those thoughts together. So I'm like, man, there's something more to this. Like, I believe I'm made, with purpose and everything. Like, I could have been gone. I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but
Are you good?
yeah, did like someone like shooting at me from 3 feet away. Times where I should have been in prison like forever. Flipping cars, just doing all kind of stupid stuff, but always walking out on the end of like untouched. Or it's like unbelievable how we got out of that situation, and yeah, it's made me want to start living for more and like living on purpose versus like barely getting by the skin of my teeth all the time.
Wow, man, it's powerful, bro. Thank you for sharing that, man. All right, go ahead, Craig. It's all yours.
So the question was, what triggered the suicide, right? That's
Yeah,
why.
what triggered your experience with suicide?
Okay. This actually in tied into the first answer when I was telling you about the girlfriend and everything, and
Oh,
this is
okay.
kind of around the exact same time. So, um, I remember like it take me like 5 or 10 times just to get out the house, just to go to work, and like, okay, try again, okay, try again, try again. And I remember one day in particular, I went to work, and I was on a train. I had sunglasses on. I'm just crying, got that slow tear down come down my eyes, and I
Mm-hmm.
can hear the devil in my ear saying, "This is it. Today's the day." And I was like, "What?" And the biggest thing with depression and suicide, like the biggest lie is that no one's going to miss you.
Right.
And when you're going through those battles, depression and suicide and self hate and suicide ideations, you're thinking, no one's going to listen to me. How I understand it now because my friends like, yo, why you didn't say anything? I could have, you know what I'm saying? Back then,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I can't tell nobody what I'm going through. I can't tell another man that I'm going through this and I feel like killing myself. So my plan was for that day was I'm going to go home. I'm going to take myself out. And at the time, I was working at a. It's a long answer, sorry, but
No, you're good, man. Take your
at
time.
the time, I was working in a fast food restaurant, and I just started crying, so I had to run to the back. And my friend at the time, she took my phone and called my mother, and she's like, "Something's going on with Craig. I don't know what it is." I didn't know she called her, so I
Mm-hmm.
go home, you know, got the pills in my hand, getting ready to goodbye note, and I'm just like, God, I'm sorry, I failed, and just thinking like, I felt like at that time, I need someone to tell me I love you. And I need that extra hug to say, don't do it. Sometimes when you're going through that battle of depression or suicide or a setback in life, you need someone to tell me, hey, I got you. Whether it's your father and mother or whoever it is. And that was my mother giving that call saying I love you. And I got that tightest hug in the world. And that was like the beginning stage of me trying to figure it out what it is.
Wow, bro, that was so transparent and real, man. Definitely can relate to just wanting somebody to be there just to tell you that they love you and hold on to you in that moment, man. So relatable, bro. Um, and yeah, man. So I guess I'll share my experience with it. So I was actually introduced to suicide at the age of 11 through well, my best friend at the time named Lamar. So some of you guys probably haven't heard my testimony, but so for those of you that have, sorry for saying it again, but at the age of 11, I was first time I was ever introduced to suicide, and Lamar was like my older brother that I never had, and so we used to play fight, play video games, all that good stuff, and then he came by to see me randomly one day, and I wasn't home. I don't remember where I was at the age of 11, but wasn't home every time he tried to see me, and so he came by randomly, gave my mom gave him the house phone number so that we could stay in touch. And fast forward a few months, we don't hear from him. Then his parents come by and tell us that he killed himself. Um, I actually skipped this part of the testimony. I don't believe I told many people this, but it's just now coming to me. During that time, his parents came. They said that they found a note that he left behind, and the reason why he killed himself was because of a girlfriend at the time. I forgot exactly what the situation was, but um, I think it was along the lines of verbal abuse and also rejection. So it goes to show you how powerful women have influences on men, and how if we're not there for them, it can be very detrimental. You know what I'm saying? And so I think men are very strong, yes, but where we are weak is in the hands of women. Um, and that's just our safe space after God. So yeah, just definitely want to share that. And so also the way I battled those suicidal thoughts was because I think at the age of 12 I came across my mom trying to kill herself. So she was my mom and dad had like an argument, and it was like 4 in the morning. He just kind of like just got his luggage and left, and at that point on, it was just I don't know. Everything was just fast paced. So it came to like 6 in the morning. Woke up, heard my mom crying outside of the bathroom door, and then I was just like, "What's going on?" She pushed me away, started trying to take pills. So then that just reintroduced me to suicide at age 12. So age 13, 14, I was dealing with a lot of depression, and also the trauma of molestation at 9 and all that other stuff. Trying to find my identity because it's been robbed from me year after year. And there were times I left this part out, but God is leading me to say it now. um, there's been times at the age of 12 that while my dad was gone, my mom tried to jump off the roof many times. And I literally had to still go to school and try to navigate life through that and still wondering, am I going to find my mom dead? And thank God she never did. But yeah, so that's the full story to at least why I was battling suicidal thoughts for a long time. Um, I happy to say that I'm pretty much free from it at this point. And the way I've overcame it was just truly finding community. I think men need to start speaking up more. Before I ever did Broken Men, I was the broken man who was opening up and speaking. You know what I'm saying? I can only I can't come up to the party with not actually having results. Um, so yeah, I've been definitely putting in the work. Taking care of my mental health and opening up, having these conversations with women and also men that are emotionally available. Because we have a lot of them men who are not, who have communities like this, but they're not emotionally available to handle it. They don't have the capacity to, and I think that's key. So yeah, that's my part of it. But man, such powerful stories, all of us that we have, man. Um, the next question we have, unless did you guys have any remarks that you wanted to say before I go on to the next question?
Yeah, I think same thing. I was like what you're saying, man. Like just man being able to open up and taking that step and stepping out and being vulnerable, no matter what kind of headspace you're in, because you know someone behind you that maybe they'll get something out of what you're doing, or be a fellow coping space. Like you know, what I mean, we're neck and neck, and we go through this thing together. So um, yeah, just again, man, kudos to you for just navigating and putting it all together.
All right, so the next question we have is, have you experienced verbal abuse from a woman? How did you overcome it? And if you didn't, then have you witnessed one of your male friends or relatives going through it?
I would say yes to those questions. Um, when I was trying to work on myself and trying to find my self love journey in a sense, and I feel like at the time, and it's not a thing where you're just saying, "Woe is me," not like that, but when you don't love yourself the way you should, you will tend to attract the wrong people, and you tend to let the wrong people stay along way too long, and that's male or female. That's how it happens. And
Yeah.
I definitely experienced a verbal abuse from my ex, and it was one of those things where you get upset with somebody. So instead of trying to communicate that in a healthy way, you will bring them down, saying you or something like that. And again, this goes back to my childhood, feeding those negative thoughts. So you never know what a person's going through. You never know what kind of trauma they have. You know what kind of triggers they have, as far as like verbal abuse, as far as negative statements, as far as putting a person down and saying you ain't this, you ain't nothing. You start to believe that, and then you think in your head, thinking everybody's the same. That was my thought at the time. Like everybody's the exact same way. And when you don't love yourself, you tend to attach to the wrong people, and it takes you longer to get rid of those wrong people. What I can say, when I started to work on me and I started to free myself and started to go to church more, I started to pray more, I started to surround myself with great men like around me, great friends who I can be me around. And when I got that freedom of in a situation that felt good, getting my weight off. Now I'm setting the standard of what I accept. And my fiance, we're together right now. When we first got together, we set the bar of how we want to treat each other. We both had the same standards. You're not going to curse at me. You're not going to yell at me. I could be totally in the wrong, or she can be the wrong, but you still got to respect me. Have no standards.
Yeah, man, that's good. That's good advice right there, bro, about having the standards. That's definitely powerful. You got anything in Montel?
Yeah, I've experienced it like a ton of times. Same thing for like, you know, teachers, family members. Um, you know, you ain't this, you ain't that. Literally being told that I wouldn't grow up to be nothing. Um, yeah, just a lot of that. And I don't think it was necessarily, or sorry, part two of the question. I've witnessed other women do it to other men as far as like relationships or just people they didn't like this dude wasn't the it dude in high school, or you know, this dude's dusty, this one's poor, but they just kind of tear this person down with their character based on or take digs at the person's character based on whatever perception they have to like a man or the fly guy or the it dude is supposed to be. So it's very belittling and like not necessary. So yeah, the last part of the question, I think overcoming it, same thing, man, just being around people who I wouldn't necessarily like tolerate that from. Kind of myself sometimes when I don't say when I have to be, that's a poor excuse, but I don't take no crap. Like if someone on me, I'm gonna say something back and I'm just, you know, go tit for tat or whatever, which isn't, you know, always the right answer, but it also sets a line of like, you're not gonna just come intentionally like treat me any kind of way, because I'm not gonna do you like that. So when you crossing that line, like maybe I have a conversation with you and be able to like, you know, move forward in a healthy way. If you know, snapping at me, like I ain't perfect, so I may, you know what I mean, get on you. But I think that the healing part and overcoming is just, again, I'm not going to attach this to me. Being well aware of what you carry, who you are in God, and not accepting anything else and not feeding those thoughts and continuing to feed, you know, what you know to be true about yourself with other people who are genuinely like positive, uplifting people, good people, because also you ain't gonna find like you gonna find out some stuff about yourself where people is gonna hit you in the front, they're gonna stab you in the front, only because they know what kind of person you're supposed to be, and get around some people who's gonna call you out when you ain't living up to that potential, either like character wise, career, whatever it is, man. And that's the kind of criticism you got to accept, because those are the ones that carry, you know what I mean, you through life. Like, you know, you walk side by side through life with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Having boundaries and having standards is what I'm seeing a pattern between you both, and that's key for sure. Um, my experience with verbal abuse from a woman definitely would come from definitely my mom. Uh, again, so it just pretty much when I was battling the disease at the time, she would say a lot of like, you know, I guess seeing it from her point of view now, like, you know, with having a tough childhood, you know, having a man who just up and left at 4 in the morning with when you have or a kid at the time. Um, yeah, so now that I understand her perspective and her whole life and everything, I can understand why the verbal abuse happened, because she didn't have no other way to you know, suppress emotion. She didn't have any other ways to express it. But yeah, definitely a lot of verbal abuse. She'll say things like "I hate you," "Wish I never had you." There's a whole bunch of crazy stuff while battling a disease, and you know, all these other emotional traumas. So yeah, definitely dealt with it. Have I? You know, I've definitely, for some odd reason. I mean, it's not odd. It's just it's part of the Haitian culture, man. Like a lot of the women are verbal abusive to their kids. Like every childhood house, I go to my friend's house, it's been the same thing. Go to school, same thing. Um, and especially in New York, man, you got some very aggressive women out here in New York. You just walk on the street, you just hear them yelling at their kids. So yeah, I've seen it all everywhere. But yeah, definitely powerful answers, and having practical steps as boundaries and standards definitely is key. The next question we have, as a man's perspective, what is something that you wish more women knew about when it comes to men?
I don't think necessarily like something I wish women knew more. I think because a lot of women, they may have a perspective from like a broken place. Maybe they had a father who was verbally abusive, or they
Mm-hmm.
view men a certain way based on either the, you know, the women maybe in like raised by scarred women or woman, excuse me, or, you know, same thing, a verbally abusive father or whatever. So I don't think it's necessarily something that I wish they knew more of, but maybe I just wish both parties would just like build. And the more you build, the more you're gonna know, because you're constantly building and learning like with this person. But just coming like, if each party, you know, just seeks to understand more then we're seeking to be understood. Like within that, we're gonna find a middle ground and like get that understanding, you know?
Yeah, that's good.
I was going to say, far as like a two-sided communication on both levels, in the sense of, I do agree with what you just said, as far as you never know what or the other person's past or the other person's trigger. So having an open communication as far as both parties and figuring out how can we come together and how can we come together on a deeper level, just deep communication without breaking each other down.
That's good stuff, bro. Um, for me, I think, man, I think it just what I wish more women knew was just how as strong as men are. I think it's the same capacity of how fragile we are in a sense. Like we're just as strong as fragile as we are. Like I think that's what something that's really overlooked is how weak men can be. You know, like we're built for this. You know what I'm saying? We really are. But at the same time, we also can be just as broken so easily. So yeah, that's my take on it. We have a question in the chat. I want to address it. It says, "What are certain things they do and don't like to be said in arguments?" So when you say they, who are you talking about? Give that person a chance to respond. Okay, so we'll get back to that question. In the meantime, we can move on to the next one. In what ways, in what ways do you believe women today can start to create safe spaces for men in their life for these conversations?
Me, safe space far as like helping the guy out, far as like a relationship or
It's not specific, but I guess we could talk about both ends as a friend and as a partner.
okay. So I have an example of that. I'm gonna use my relationship with my fiance an example.
Yeah,
When we first got together, I had two major deaths in my family, right? And my grandma had passed, my aunt had passed, both of cancer. So remember back then, I explained how I felt while expressing myself to a woman and getting that negative reaction.
yeah,
So she called me on the phone, and I was in my aunt's house trying to clean up her apartment up. And before the phone rings, I'm like, I got to express myself. I'm not really, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. So she looks at me and says, "Look at me. It's okay." I think a lot of times men want to hear it's okay. Men want to hear that we are human, that we can express ourselves and show emotions because we're human. We it's okay to have those feelings and acknowledge them and be like, "Know what? I got you." It's okay to cry. It's okay to release those feelings instead of holding everything in.
yeah. Wow, yeah, that's good, bro. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I think from a relationship standpoint, I think some of like the best advice I heard someone tell me is like both parties, but specifically she was talking, you know, to a woman like when like focus on building with the person versus trying to win an argument. It's like when you go on the battle, war, sports, combat, whatever, right? You're trying to win. So the other person is a loser. At the end of the game, you don't want to walk off with the loser. It's like I just dominated somebody's team. But the same thing, you don't want to like belittle your spouse or partner or whatever, because like you don't want to be married to a loser. So why you always want to like win a battle or like tear them down? And this is man to woman, woman to man, you know. And then I think um, as far as like just you know friend to friend, men and women, or you know brother sister figure, whatever, just realize like this person is also your safe space. So I want my safe space and the people I battle with to be like as strong as possible. So whether that's being the ear to listen, giving some practical tools, or it's not always about giving advice. Sometimes you may just have to just sit and just be a place this person can go to. But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? We're on the same team and your team is only as strong as your weakest player. So I want to be that safe place where my teammate comes to get strained. Sometimes it's gonna get ugly, but you know, let's get ugly behind closed doors so we can go out, you know what I mean, presentable
Yeah,
and you know, wholesome once we leave this room.
yeah, man. I definitely agree with both of you guys are saying. You know, I've been blessed to finally have my fiance, right? And one thing that we definitely I'm starting to notice at least supernaturally is that the terminology that Christian use about becoming one, right? That's what the Bible says. Like you truly feel that thing. Like it's like a weird thing where your heart feels like the same thing they're feeling without even talking. And so it's just like communication is definitely key. I think that's like the most misunderstood thing. I think a lot of men don't know how to communicate. Women too, but I think that's just something that we all need to work on. It's a never-ending process. But yeah, man, I think that's just what I wanted to highlight about what you guys were saying about just the communication aspect and understanding the differences that we all have in each other. Um, and yeah, so we'll get to that question that we just had. Yeah, so the person said, so I guess, so for your, I guess, Craig, so for your fiance, what are some things that she does not like being said in arguments?
We both had the same far as like ideas, far as um like not him blowing up or not like cutting a person down. And the person could be totally wrong in the argument, right? And you could be right, but at the same time, your words and your actions or your tone or the way your hand gestures, being super aggressive can tear down the other person. So, um, having a clear communication to still get your point across, but still respect the person you with. Even if you are mad, it's still a way to get your point across without actually cutting the person down or making them feel like they're nothing.
Yeah,
Most
same.
definitely.
I
Yep.
can't give like specific quotes to be said or not be said, but yeah, you don't want to belittle a person. So it's what you say, it's how you say it. Some people use the terminology, I'm just keeping it real, but like keeping it real isn't a license to just um, spew off at the mouth with like your unfiltered emotions and like, oh, I'm just keeping it real, like in the name of being, 100 or whatever, So it's what you say, is how you're saying it, and then also remember too, like your day-to-day life with the person, it's not a situation, it's an experience, and people are going to remember how they experience you. So let's say, even for example, 10 times in a year you guys get into it and it's very like hurtful and belittling. It's not a lot of times over the span of the year if you think of like 365 days compared to the other 10, but also that's 10 times they experience you beating them down, and they could carry those things. They may, get over it, forget whatever the case is, but in reality, they've experienced you in this way 10 times in ways that could stick with them for years or in ways that you don't even know about. So again, just think like, what kind of experience do I want to create with this person in whatever moment, good or bad?
That's a good response, bro. Um, so we're gonna open up for Q&A now. If you have a question, now would be the best time to raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask your question, or even put in the chat if you're more comfortable with it that way. Brothers, I just definitely thank you so much for this chat. This conversation was powerful. I definitely encourage you guys to continue it, even outside of just broken men. Open it up with your brothers, and just keep this thing going, man. For real, like it's really necessary. And yeah, I truly learned a lot from tonight. So what's one thing that you would leave with somebody who's watching this? Like just one piece of advice.
One piece of advice for a person that's watching, you said, I would tell the
Yeah,
person that your self love, how you view yourself, is the most important thing in the world. If we can't love ourselves in any kind of way, we can't love no one. You're doing yourself a disjustice. Learn to love yourself.
Yeah, and I'll say, don't buy the lie that nobody cares, or if you think about any of your life that there's nowhere you can go, like get counseling, go to a church, like find somebody you can talk to, and just remember, like every day that you wake up and you haven't committed suicide or whatever, like that's the time that you made it through something. No matter if you're at your weakest moment, every day you wake up, it's the time that you didn't die. So yeah, take advantage of it, and don't believe the lie that nobody cares. There's always going to be like this, or you're soft or whitewashed or whatever terms you hear out there, that you're just the scum of the earth if you show any kind of emotion. Like get out there and talk to somebody, holler at any one of us.
yeah, definitely. What I'd say is it's probably gonna sound cliche, but it's okay to be broken, but just be willing to be mended. Like truly, man, like it's okay to be broken sometimes. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to cry. Like for real. Like a lot of men don't like to cry, but it's okay to cry. Let out your emotions. But community is key. And yeah, just be vocal. Do not suppress anything. We're called to, we're designed to be vessels. Like we're not meant to hold things in. So, suppression leads to depression. And so, the more you open up, the more you heal. So yeah, I think that's it. I don't see any questions. I don't see any hand raises. So I think that's just it, guys. I'm gonna be tapped in with you guys in a bit, in a few minutes on IG Live. For the recap, Jayla says, as a single mom of a 6-year-old son, I can't teach him certain things, but what are some things that I can do as baseline to prepare him to set his boundaries as a man, to navigate and not accept the abuse that comes with life?
Um, I don't have a super concrete answer for that, but I'll say, as men in general, like assuming you're in like a two-parent household or whatever, like you get your morals and identity and like all that good fuel from men and women, from your mom and your dad. So give everything that you're able to give to him as a woman, as far as your code and just dignity and like what to tolerate and what not to tolerate. Speak with them. I get in the habit of, like, when my kids are on my nerves or something, I don't tower over them when I'm talking to them. I get on my knees from eye level so I don't seem scary to them. I let them know like I'm coming down to your level, whatever. And sorry, my last piece of this ramble will be like, if there's anything you could put them in as far as like, martial arts or like communities where you win, lose, draw, and you're learning all kind of life lessons from different people who are like mentors or coaches or figures, like you're gonna pull in. It takes a village. I'll just keep it at that. So, but whatever you have to give to them, like give it all, and that's gonna show their character. That's gonna carry your kid as a man.
So I'll answer that one next. Um, you know, the first person to ever teach us about boundaries in the Bible was God. Literally, He set boundaries, and I think, in a human standpoint, from my experience, boundaries is just capacity. It's like, what do you want? When you know what you want and what your standards are, and you're not willing to settle, then it's like, at what capacity or what threshold, are you willing to set in place? Like, you can do this to me, but you can't do that. You can eat from any tree in the garden, but you can't eat from this tree. So I think when you're able to help him identify what he wants in life, or what he wants his life to look like, what he wants a woman to, how he wants a woman to be in his life, I think that will help him be able to identify what boundaries to set in place as a man. You had anything you wanted to add, Craig?
Yeah, sorry. I would say something that my mom did for me when I was going through depression. She got to know me on a deeper level, in the sense of like finding out the things that I like, finding like the music that I like, having conversations, constantly telling me that she loved me every single day, giving those positive. It's been times where she actually wrote affirmations on a bathroom mirror when she went to work, and I was still there. Like, hey, remember, God loves you. I love you. Having that constant, and I do agree, it does take a village. Also, like, who are your friends and who you like to hang around? What cousins you like? So I also got that from my mom and a few of my friends. Also, just having a village of people who actually helped me bring me up into a great man.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I just love this. I just love these answers. Yeah, I just hope that was able to help. She said that was so good, guys. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, man. So this wraps up the fourth episode of Healing Through Transparency, Broken Men. This was a powerful conversation. I definitely enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Brothers, thank you so much for your awesome answers, your experiences, and just your vulnerability. I truly think it's going to help some of the other men who watch this replay. And yeah, please be sure to follow my brothers. I'm going to put everything in the description. If you don't have my Instagram, I'm going to put it right now in the chat. That is going to be the user handle I'm going to be going live from in about 3 minutes. Yeah, if you want to hop in for the recap and just share your opinion, that'll be dope. But yeah, I'll see you guys there. Brothers, thank you again. You guys have a great night. This was Healing Through Transparency.